Hi, I'm Andy Vaughan, and this is the Passive Investor Show.
The views and opinions provided on this show are for informational purposes only and should not be misinterpreted as an offer to buy or sell any securities or to make or consider any investment or course of action. For more information, please go to passiveinvestorshow.com.
Are you a busy professional looking to diversify your portfolio? Ever wanted to passively invest in real estate but don't know where to start? John Fortes provides you with a guide to passively invest in real estate. This is the Passive Investor Show.
And now, the Passive Investor Show. Here's your host, John Fortes.
Welcome, PI listeners, to the Passive Investor Show. I'm the Passive Investor Consultant, John Fortes, your host of the only ranked podcast for passive investors in multifamily syndications. Our goal and purpose of this show is to be a resource to passive investors and help them master their passive investments in real estate funds. I have a very special guest today, my friend, Andy Vaughan. Andy is the CEO of Back 9 Investors. Andy has been in the insurance industry for 27 years and has owned multiple insurance agencies. During that time, he worked with numerous high-income, high-net-worth clients and business owners who had interest in real estate investing but didn't want to be a landlord. In 2017, Andy transitioned his focus into helping those people invest passively in apartment communities located in strategic markets in the southern U.S. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Thanks, John. Glad to be here.
Tell us about your background and how you got started with working with the insurance industry.
Well, as you can tell by the name of my business, Back 9 Investors, I've always been interested and enjoyed playing golf. And, played a lot of golf in high school and got a college scholarship to go play golf. And summer times would come along and I would work at the local golf courses and country clubs and do different jobs. I'd cart boy and work in the pro shop and that sort of thing. It always intrigued me that during the day when most people were at work, you always had some, grown men that they did quite well, but they would be during the day while everybody's at work, they're playing golf. And that always intrigued me. So being very curious, I started asking around about what they did and what line of work they were in. And it seemed to be that they were, most of them were in some sort of sales, but there were several of them that were in the insurance business, insurance sales, property and casualty, different things of that nature. So I had a buddy of mine that I played golf with in college. And when he got out, when he graduated, he took a job with an insurance company, a property and casualty insurance company. So we were still playing golf, and he's telling me about everything that he does and how much money he makes and stuff getting started out. So I was like, and he still played golf during the day. So I was like, that's the direction I want to go.
I love that. And then you just headed into the insurance industry. And then how'd you get involved into real estate and working with passive investors?
Well, it's a long story. But I would say, I'm one of those guys like you hear all these other stories that's been very interested in either developing businesses or passive income in some form or fashion. Obviously I wasn't good enough to be any sort of professional athlete. Couldn't write a song or sing a song. I'm not an actor. So I was like, okay, what other ways are there of being able to produce residual income is what I called it back then, where I could literally do the work one time, but continue to get paid on it the rest of my life, or at least several years. And so the two things that stood out to me were insurance and real estate. So insurance business, if I sell a policy, let's say it could be something small like a homeowner's policy, or it could be something large like a commercial insurance policy, group health insurance, something along those lines. But theoretically, the hard work is done up front, sort of like acquiring a property. The hard work is done up front to acquire that client. But in the theory is, as long as they're continue paying premium, then I'm earning income on that. And I saw the same thing in real estate. You work to find the property, acquire the property, fix it up, whatever it is, single family apartments or whatever. And as long as you have, all your numbers calculated correctly, and you have residents in there that are actually paying the monthly rent on time and everything, then you should be making a profit. So those are the things. That's really what intrigued me about that line of work. Now, as far as there again, I mean, you say insurance and real estate. Yeah, I jumped on the insurance wagon back in, I guess it was 93 when I graduated college. And then, I probably got to, I can remember when my grandfather died, he had a house. Long story short, that was kind of like my first purchase. I purchased it from I guess, like my mom and the people that were going to get the house or whatever. They didn't want it. So they just sold it and I bought it and I knew it was a good deal. Being in the insurance business in the local market, I insured a lot of homes, both rental and personal residence. So I knew, I pretty much knew what the value of the houses were in my market. So when I saw what they were willing to sell that for or whatever, I jumped on that. Now, I did it with the idea that I was going to rent it out. Somebody came along and offered me, I think it was like $10,000 or $12,000 more than I paid for it, like the next week. And so I sold it. It's one of those things I wish I'd hung on to, but I sold it. So, gosh, that was probably in 2004. So I had several other, Rich Dad series. You read all those sorts of things and do some digging around but inevitably what I always came by, I enjoy playing golf. And at that time, I was pretty much every Friday afternoon, I was on the golf course, maybe on the weekends, maybe once or twice during the week or whatever. And the thought that always came to mind was, what if I'm out on the back nine and I get a phone call and the toilet stopped up or the air conditioning went out and it's August and it's in Louisiana and it's 120% humidity down here. And, so I didn't want to be bothered with those sorts of things. I didn't understand that there were other ways to invest passively in real estate. I just thought that if I invested, I had to be a landlord, and that's what I didn't want. So there were several times where I identified properties and put offers in and talked myself out of it because I didn't want to be a landlord. So fast forward to, probably back in 2010, with the passage of the Affordable Care Act, the whole landscape changed in what I do. I do a lot of employee benefits, group health insurance. That whole landscape changed, not only from how we were getting paid, but also from the number of businesses that were, offering insurance, group health insurance to their employees. A lot of them just decided to scrap it and forget it. So I saw that amount of revenue decrease tremendously over a 3 or 4 year period of time. And it got me looking again at what I could do. And then I had a client that owned a lot of single family and small multifamily properties. And he was, at that time, he's probably late 60s, maybe around 70, and he was getting ready to retire. One of his properties it was a single family house, but it had a pretty good piece of land. And he tore the house down. He was going to build 8 duplexes on it. And he got everything ready to go, all the plans drawn up. And then I saw him at a basketball game, and I was asking how it was going. He said, I decided not to do it. We're moving to the beach. Selling everything off, and I'm just moving to the beach. He's like, you ought to do it, man. I got everything ready to go. I mean, I got the property up for sale. Buy it from me. I'll give you my plans. I'll turn you over to the contractor that it's all ready to roll. So that was like in September of 16. Yeah, it was September of 16. So I really did. I went down that rabbit hole and started looking at it and talking to bankers and all that sort of stuff and figuring out. And, I figured it was going to be about $1.5 million, thereabout project. And ultimately it was going to be a long runway of no income. So I'd be, all those interest payments and carrying that debt load and no tenants in there for a while. So I passed on that deal. But it got me thinking about multifamily. somehow or another, I think it was a friend of mine just told me about Bigger Pockets. I never was a podcast listener, but told me about Bigger Pockets. So I started listening to that. Then fast forward to like November of that year. And I was just, I've looked back to try to figure out which specific podcast it was. Numerous times I can't figure it out, but I just remember driving down the road and it was this guy who was telling the story of how he had syndicated an apartment deal. And I knew what the word syndicate meant. I knew what a syndication was, but I didn't know you could do it for real estate. And it was kind of eye-opening for me. So then I started exploring that. By that time, I'm not one to just kind of sit on my hands. I generally shoot first and aim later. So I did buy a single-family home on auction.com, and I started rehabbing that. But all while I was learning about the multifamily and apartments and that sort of thing. So there again, I still didn't realize, my thinking was small. So I assumed that I would have to start with like a duplex or fourplex, and that's kind of how I was looking. So I identified some, certain markets I wanted to be in that I knew were good markets, and started looking for those type properties. Had several, under contract, and that was probably late 17. But I started doing a lot of going to the conferences and workshops, and just listening to podcasts, reading books, and learning about this syndication thing. So I found a mentor first part of 2018, and we were in that process where he's like, okay, what you need to do is, you need to go pretend you have a deal. Like if you did have a real deal, here's what it would look like. So he called it like a sample deal package. So I could go talk to, friends, family, potential investors, say, look, I don't have this particular thing under contract, but when I do find something, it's going to look like this. And go through everything and say, if you have any interest in investing in something like this, or somebody that do, just let me know or whatever. And so that's kind of the stage I was at. And I met a guy, actually, a mutual friend of ours, that at that time he already had a deal under contract, but he was going to be short on capital. So, being the opportunist that I am, I just reached out to him and asked him if he'd be open to partnering on it if I could bring some capital to the deal. So that's what we did. That was probably in February of 18 now. It was a 36 unit in Greensboro, North Carolina. It was our first deal. So we worked on that and closed at the end of June for our first syndicated multifamily deal. So that was really the first. Now we're 2 years down the road, and you naturally gravitate towards certain things. There's so many different areas, sort of like insurance. I mean, I look back at the insurance business, I think, well, I could write home and auto, or I could do life and health, or I could do disability or commercial. There are all these different areas. And, real estate investing, and even in multifamily syndications, there's so many different areas and so many things that have to be done. So you naturally gravitate. Some people like to underwrite, some people like to operate the asset and do the asset management side. But I enjoy raising the capital and letting people know, the regular people of our world, so to speak, letting them know that they can invest passively in real estate. Because like I said, I had no idea that you could do that. So that's kind of what I've gravitated towards and worked towards and built up. And since that time, I've been a part of 4 other deals, so I'm still learning all the time, but it's been fun.
I love that. I love that you mentioned you gravitate to your strengths, and like you, I like networking with investors. I like networking I just like communicating and kind of pairing people with certain things. And I love numbers too. So there's something with that where you just gravitate and find your strengths. But hey, real estate investors, did you know that you can invest in real estate with your 401k or IRA? Through NewView Trust Company, you don't have to worry about the volatile stock market to make smart money moves. NewView has a free self-directed IRA guide you can get right now. That's right, PI listeners. I said right now. Go to newviewtrust.com to get your hands on it and learn more. Since their founding, NewView Trust has strived to provide clients with the broadest possible choices in their IRAs. So head to newviewtrust.com to download their free guide that could help you invest your retirement account in real estate and much more. That's NUVIEW trust.com. NewviewTrust.com. The more you know, the more we grow. Happy investing. Let's talk about what's your criteria for passive investors right now, because we speak about the importance of vetting a sponsor, but at the same time, as operators, we're vetting the investors as well. So what's your criteria for passive investors?
Well, I mean, there again, I always refer back to just what my experience is. So having experience in the insurance business all these years, I learned over 27 years. I would do business with some clients that I may get sometimes 6 months down the road, sometimes a year down the road, sometimes it's a day down the road, and realize, wow, I don't want to do business with this person. I mean, they're just difficult to deal with. They don't understand. They look at it like a necessary evil and just all those sorts of things. So I realized I had this epiphany one day that in the insurance business, I don't have to do business with everybody. I'm not looking to sell and bring on just anyone as a client. I want to do business with. It's sort of like, there again, I refer back to golf or whatever. I mean, you're going to hang out with the people that you enjoy hanging out with. I'm going to play golf with people I enjoy playing golf with. So therefore, I like to do business with people that I enjoy hanging out with and doing life with. So for me, that's what I said, like when you were reading my bio earlier, is just, I had a number of clients, physicians, dentists, chiropractors, small business owners that made a lot of money. And some of them, dipped their toe in over the years. I remember this one same age as me, physician that decided he was going to buy it's about a 40-unit apartment building, maybe 20 miles down the road or whatever, but he's going to manage it himself. So I remember thinking, oh, this is a train wreck, looking for a place to have. And sure enough, I mean, it was like, a year and a half, 2 years down the road, I mean, he had to sell it. So it was just too much for him. So I have a lot of friends, a lot of clients, a lot of people I go to church with, a lot of people I'm involved in civic organizations with and community, that they're looking for ways to, whether it's a business or real estate or whatever it is, they're looking to invest passively. I think back to, we bought a business and then expanded it back in, I think it was like 2003 or something like that. And I brought investors into that. I mean, I brought other people because they were looking for some alternative to the stock market, something that they had a little more control over themselves that made sense. So it's the same thing with real estate. I mean, that's what I tell people is when you're buying a multifamily apartment complex, you're buying an existing business. It's not like me looking at developing 8 duplex, 16 units from ground up and carrying that debt with no income. We're buying an existing business that already has tenants paying rent, already has management, already has expenses. We know what those expenses are because we can look back 3 years typically. And so we got a good handle on all of that. So you're buying an ongoing business concern. It just happens to be in real estate. So to me and to my client base and friends and family or whatever, I mean, that makes sense.
I love that. I love how you're educating the people that you're partnering with, but also
right.
The best thing that you said was do life with people. Yeah. You're looking for investors or choosing to partner with people that you want to do life with. And that's beautiful. I love that thing, man. I'm going to steal that and start using that. I want to do life with people.
Yeah.
Andy, when someone approaches your company and just starts, inquiring about it, what's your onboarding process look like for passive investors?
Well, I mean, there again, it's just like, I relate it back to the insurance business. So, I mean, there's going to be, whether it's in person or whether it's a Zoom call or telephone call or whatever, there's going to be several conversations, and we're going to talk about, what they're looking for. I want everybody to have realistic expectations. Multifamily, I mean, this is not something that you're going to invest your money in and typically make 30, 40, 50% on your money in first year. I mean, it's just, it's a more even keeled investment. We're trying to take you away and take you out of the volatility of the stock market. You always hear, I have a friend of mine that's a local, one of our state representatives I played golf with the other day. I can remember when I went to him to talk to him about this first investment deal that we had, this first apartment complex we bought, he's like, why would I want to do that? I made 30% in the market last year. So I was playing golf with him the other day. I said, how have you done in the market the last few months? you know? So we're trying to take people out of that volatility. I mean, it's not for everybody, or at least all of their assets shouldn't be there. So that's kind of the process is whether it's over dinner or whether it's a phone call or whatever. I mean, we want to talk about what we do, what they can expect, reasonable expectations over the life of the investment. I want them to understand, hey, once you invest, then we're going to start operating this asset. And depending on what it is, it could be, if you buy something like we're part of a student housing deal that's like Class A, super high end. And I mean, it's pretty much turnkey. It's easy. But, if we're buying a apartment complex that's maybe 90-ish or below % occupied, and theory is to fix it up and place better tenant class in it and those sorts of things. Well, maybe they're not going to get a distribution on their investment. That maybe it's first year, maybe it's 18 months. It just depends on what we're looking at. But I want them to have realistic expectations.
I love that. And you mentioned something that I just want to go back to. If you're listening to this in the future, which most likely you are, the COVID-19 situation and the volatility of the stock market is what Andy was referencing to the state representative. So right. Let's transition. All right. So tell me something you had to implement since you started working with passive investors. What systems, what processes, what software has been really helpful for you?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, there again, 27 years in the insurance business. I mean, the technology with that business is always evolving, and I always thought I was kind of on the forefront of using technology for my insurance business. But I mean, they're like other financial institutions. I mean, insurance companies are just slow. They love paper, and dealing with this, I mean, you just can't be that way. I mean, I've got a business partner and up there in your neck of the woods in Boston, Massachusetts, or if I got a business partner in Nashville, Tennessee, I mean, I can't just take a piece of paper over there and get them to sign. So yeah, we got to use technology. For me, and this is kind of how far behind the curve I was. I mean, I think back, through this whole COVID thing, Zoom calls are all the rage now. Everybody, all the kids even, and everybody's doing a Zoom call. Well, I mean, in 2018, when I started doing this syndication business and doing things in this world, started using Zoom calls. Well, it was new to me back then. I didn't know what it was and what it was for and all those sorts of things. So, yeah, I mean, Zoom, Dropbox even. I mean, I even converted my insurance business. I mean, I used to have my own server, and then I would have my desktop, and then I would have to access all the files on the server and all that ORK type stuff. So converting all of that even over to Dropbox. I love Dropbox. I mean, it's simple. I mean, it's a simple thing. But then obviously then you get into bringing in other investors, and you got to have investor portals and, their ability to be able to sign documents electronically, and you can go over those documents with them and all those sorts of things. So, but yeah, I mean, and depending on, what we're doing and who we're partnering with on any given deal, it may be, there's several different platforms out there for the investor portals.
Yeah, I love it. I love the fact that you're using technology. So what I like to say, I got a technology background in IT. I used to consult. So technology to me is something that, to embrace technology going forward, is something I always say is kind of like a mantra, is technology never goes backwards, it goes forward. So the quicker you can implement something, for instance, we're moving to the cloud. Everybody's in the cloud now. Well, a lot of corporations, we're moving to the cloud. I've been in the cloud for quite some time now. So with you have too, with Dropbox, right? So it's things like that where you got to move quick, because technology changes things and it makes things easier for not only us, but for even passive investors as well. So yeah, that's amazing, man. Thank you for sharing that, Andy. Yeah. Andy, one piece of advice for the PI listeners.
I think, way back in the day, I read a book. I think it's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the thing that probably the biggest thing that I got out of that book, and I still use regardless of what I'm doing, is begin with the end in mind. So as a passive investor, what is it I'm trying to accomplish? I mean, even me as an active investor, ultimately the end is to become a passive investor. I mean, that's why I'm doing these syndications and raising capital and all of that, so that one day I can be on the passive side and not have to do all the activities. So I would say begin with the end in mind. I mean, what are you looking for? What are you trying to accomplish? What time horizon are you trying to accomplish it? What sort of asset classes, whether it be multifamily, storage, mobile home parks, businesses, whatever, what sort of asset classes do you have prior knowledge of and past experience with? What do you feel comfortable with? I mean, I've just run across a lot of passive investors that have taught me things. I mean, I thought I was educating them, but it's like the gentleman I was telling you about that tried to talk me into developing the duplexes. I mean, he's now invested passively in 3 of my deals. So, and early on, it was reassuring to be able to pick up the phone and call him and get his opinion. I mean, he's been doing it for years and years and years, and get his thoughts on things. So I think begin with the end in mind and know, with pretty certain terms what you're trying to accomplish and what that's going to look like, how long that's going to take, and those sorts of things.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And the gentleman that's invested with you, that probably was like, hey, you mean I don't have to do any work and I divested out all these? Sure, let's do it. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. All right, absolutely. Andy, how can we stay in touch with you?
You can email Andy@back9investors.com, and 9 is spelled out, so back9investors.com. And I'm fine with anybody if they want to pick up the phone and call me, text me, whatever. I'll be glad to give out my phone number. It's area code 318-614-0681. And then we got, the website, back9investors.com. I think that, I've tried to spend a little time on LinkedIn and Bigger Pockets and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the best way.
Also, I want to mention, I'm a big fan of your blogs. We talked about that before the show, and
I appreciate it.
He's a great writer. He loves writing. He's a great writer. So yeah, I just had to throw that out there, man.
I appreciate that.
Nah, no worries. Andy, my favorite question to ask, and you kind of already spoiled it from saying it earlier. So spoiler alert from earlier, you already answered this. Is there a meaning behind your company name?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with my background in golf and all these years, I mean, I had a couple of uncles that owned some golf courses and country clubs. So I got introduced to the game at an early age, kind of grew up on the golf course in the summer times and that sort of thing. So, but also the way I look at it is I kind of look at life as like 18 holes. So somewhere around age 40, 45, I don't know if you're familiar with golf, but in golf terminology, you finish 9 holes, then you make the turn. So somewhere around age 40, 45 years old, you're making the turn. So I'm 50. So I think I'm maybe like on hole 11 or 12, something like that. I'm on the back 9 of life. And so that has that other connotation there that's primarily going to be the investors that invest in my deals and I do life with. And that's just my natural tribe, if you will, is people that are on the back 9 of life and looking at other ways to invest passively.
I guess it wasn't a spoiler. I love it. I really do love that. Like, I love how you came up with that. Andy, thank you for coming on, man. It's been a joy and a pleasure to have you on the show, man. I hope everybody got something out of this, which I did, and I know they did too. So appreciate you.
I appreciate you, John.
PI listeners, thank you for listening. As always, we hope this was the best resource for your investment strategy, but also the best use of your time. As much as it pains us to leave you, but you know what time it is. Time to go put this into practice. Till the next time we meet, happy investing. PI listeners, I'm grateful for your time and I appreciate you for listening. It would mean the world to me if you went to iTunes and left a rating and written review. Let me know how you feel about the show. It really makes a big difference with getting the podcast out there. Don't forget about our Facebook group, where all of our guests are members of. I'll be there to answer any of your questions, or even questions you might have for future guests. Subscribe so you can get the latest episodes and our fan favorite quick hitters. Finally, I want to keep you updated, so head over to johnfortes.com and sign up for the newsletter. If you're interested in partnering with me, sign up on the contact page so you can talk to me directly. I look forward to connecting with you. Happy investing.